The other thing that's happening now and is new is we invite you to be part of the virtual science symposium. So I put together with my colleagues at the Globe Implementation Office some slides on the virtual science symposium. So I'll present this here. Can you see my screen? Do you see my slides? Great. Okay, so I really want to thank Allison Moat and Cassie Sofing for helping put together these slides. And we do have a recorded webinar that we presented last week or last month. So if you did listen to the webinar, you'll see the same slides, but this is adapted for you. And this is the theme, the Virtual Science Symposium, Globe Data Detectives, using data to explore change in your local environment. And you can see that there's all these beautiful graphics that have been made as well. Each graphic is what's called a badge, and students can earn these badges. And it's also one thing that's very important is this is the first year ever that it's not only for students. So educators can put in a lesson plan idea. It's for everybody. If you get a blowing snow observation, you can share it. So this is really neat to have this be opened up for all. So what is it? You'll notice that if you participated in the past, that it used to be called the International Virtual Science Symposium. And there used to be money to fly students internationally to come to the United States for the Globe annual meeting. That money, we don't have those funds. It's still very much international. It's happening in all countries who participate in Globe, but now it's just a virtual science symposium because that travel part is not available. So what is it? It's an online asynchronous symposium. So people participate by uploading their Globe investigation, and they share that with the Globe community and STEM professionals. And then those participants get feedback from reviewers, and those reviewers are volunteers. And then anyone who participates, educators or students, community members who participate can also earn virtual badges and also certificates. So the timeline for this virtual science symposium is a lot faster than it has ever been before. Part of that is because my own funding to be part of the Globe Implementation Office will end in March of this year. It's supposed to go for 5 years, and there's been a funding cut at NASA. And other people who are participating are also their funds have cut as well. So we decided to still do it, just shorter and fewer requirements. So we are accepting projects through January 30th. So this month. And I know that, you may not have a project together, but you might have a project idea, and that is just fine. You can this year submit project proposals or ideas. Then we are training reviewers, and we're recruiting reviewers and training reviewers on how to do that review in February. In February is the training, and then the review period is a couple of weeks in February. Then we'll give feedback in March. So this has been going on for several years now, since 2016. And you can see that we started with reviewers from all over the world. And then last year, wow, we had a huge spike in the number of people participating and serving as reviewers to give feedback to participants. And then as of last week, we already had 300 reviewers sign up. So we have, tons of people who are going to give feedback to your students, or you, if you wanted to connect with STEM professionals and submit a project. So I mentioned some things that are different this year. So what's new? First of all, it's open to all ages. Oops, this year. That means anyone. That means, you know, Emily and Hannah and Elena and Tori and I could also submit a project as well. Um, so it's really a neat way to share science and build community. It is a shortened timeline. You would submit the project just like if in the past it's through globe.gov through the student or through the student research portal, which is now called participant portal, I believe. And so that's the same. But what's different is that this year, the no written report is required. In prior years, to do the virtual science symposium, it did require an actual written report. So now it's just a bit of an abstract, and you could have a video, you could have GIS story map, you could have PowerPoint slides, you could have a lesson plan, a PDF, a PowerPoint, Word document. So that's kind of a cool option. Projects do have to be in English this year, and the feedback is going to be different this year. It's going to be in the Globe network. And so this is the link there to the Globe network. It is a new program. It's a learning management tool, and it's a community building tool. And that's also where e-training is moving to as well. So this year's theme is Globe Data Detectives. And we really do want people to try to explore their local environments using data. And it could be the data that they collect, or they might collect if you're submitting an idea for a plan. Or you can find existing data. So for example, I heard, in Shishmaref, I heard that Dan might want to talk to permafrost scientists, and Emily connected Ben Jones, who's going to be going to Shishmaref. So that'd be a really great way for students to say, okay, our frost tube didn't work out. Here's what happened. But instead, like, here's some of the data that Ben Jones has collected in the permafrost discovery gateway, which is a really cool tool. So they can actually use some of those data sources to explore their local environment. So this is the QR code if you want to get all of the information. I'll leave this up for a second, but I think Tori's also putting all these links in the chat as well. So you can, use data, explore change in your local environment through GLOBE protocols, through the GLOBE database, through NASA satellite mission data, and then of course, through other experts. This year, there's a new badge. I'm super excited about it because we work with satellite data. This came on board before I even joined the GLOBE implementation office, but what a pretty badge. And it's what Hannah does every day. And the new badge is I work with satellite data. So the research incorporates NASA satellite mission data to investigate research questions, and the educators, students, teachers could explain how NASA satellite data is incorporated into their project to answer these questions. So this is the link here to the badges and what the kind of requirements are to earn a badge. Now, this is a honor system. The people submitting the project would say, I think I'm earning this kind of badge. Or if you're using some satellite data, such as through this tool that provides satellite data, it's a tool called My NASA Data, which will give you satellite data for areas that you need in a user-friendly way. Like if you explored this program called My NASA Data, then you would be, using this I work with satellite data badge, and you would say in your description, I, use this tool, and therefore I feel like I should be getting the work with satellite data badge. but there are also other badges as well. And some of those are, I'm a collaborator. So if you're collaborating with other people, you would say, hey, you know, I'm collaborating and therefore I want to earn that badge. So it's just a way like for participants to kind of self-select what they think they are doing. So how do you do a project? What are the requirements? Everybody does have to have a summary, abstract. Then the presentation of your globe investigation or your project proposal. I mentioned that you do need to explain what badge you'd like to earn. And I'm saying you here, but it could be your students, of course. And then anybody who appears in photos needs a media release. And again, just to reiterate, something new this year is that these projects are due way earlier than they used to be due. So you can just be like Colin and Jim submitting a project proposal saying, I think we want to go and get soil moisture. You know, here's what we think we would like to do. And you could get feedback from scientists just by submitting lesson plans. Okay, so next here are these two options. On the left is if you know you had time to actually conduct a globe investigation, your narrative should include the title, the abstract, the introduction, what methods and materials you used, and methods you followed, your globe data and what those results from the data were, what those results mean in the discussion, a conclusion, your references or citations, and then your badge descriptions. And so if you're thinking of a PowerPoint, like if your students are to do a PowerPoint, that's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 PowerPoint slides. And that could be an investigation. And on the right is the actual project proposal. What's different here is, you know, you focus a little bit more in the introduction really on kind of what research questions you might be exploring and describing the site. You know, really, where do you think that would be? What data do you plan to collect at that site? Any background that people should know about at that site? What do you expect to find out? What are your goals? And then also citations and badge descriptions. And we have built templates for both of these. So it is required that there is some description of what badges you would think that you're earning. One of these badges, this is the I Am a Globe Researcher badge. All people who participate will earn that badge. So, you know, students may want, and I know that some schools like clip this and they actually print the badges, and some have actually made them into, you know, something that they can sew on a jacket and stuff like that, or make cool stickers. So all of these additional badges are described at this QR code and at this link. And really they want to kind of focus their projects, and the badges are one way to do that. So there are 9 additional badges to the 2 that you saw, the researcher and the satellite, work with satellite data, and people should really focus on 3. Okay, so I mentioned that we have templates. This is a template for if you haven't started doing a project yet, how would you plan one? So it's if you were to kind of make a globe investigation after the snow melts, this is a great handout that you can use with students or use for yourself. And this, I wanted to thank Tracy Ostrom from Globe Mission Earth for helping us make this. And then this is the actual template of what you would submit. So here is a research proposal template with the project title, the names, the school, the mentors, and then, you know, what is the research question and what do you think the hypothesis would be? And again, the QR code links to the actual template. Here we have, what would the presentation look like? What would be the finished product? And this is a Teslin Brannon here, presented 2 years ago. She presented water temperature and pH measurements on volcanic glacier and Philon Creek in Alaska. And this is what her poster looked like. So she made a poster and she presented that. And that is one option. And we have plenty of poster templates for your students to choose from. At the top here, this is an ArcGIS story map. We have templates for that as well. And so does Emily. And then on the right, this is just a video. A student made a PowerPoint and recorded themselves. And if you do a video that's, it could just be a video, a slideshow, but if the students actually recorded it with them in it, it should be 10 minutes or less. So I know Emily's going to talk more about story maps. This is the one that we have, Cassie Sofing, who I work with at the Globe Implementation Office, put this one together on step-by-step on creating an ArcGIS story map. But Emily has also shared one at the workshop as well. So now you have another resource. And then this is the website where you would go to for all the information that I kind of went over very quickly, what the badges are, what their project requirements, how people are going to review and give great feedback. You're going to have at least 3 STEM professionals look at every single project. And again, they don't have to be finished and they don't even have to have data collected yet. And you can see prior reports as well. And this is also where you would upload the projects. Educators have lots of resources on science practices, on planning. This is the quick start guide, but we also have, how to give feedback to students as well, which you're all pros with. And I mentioned that there's templates. If you want students to do posters, there's plenty of templates to choose from on this page as well. And there's also age appropriate or grade appropriate templates. And project, lots of information. Then once your poster is done, what we're already doing, and we have like 30 projects so far submitted, we take them out of the Globe website. We don't take them out. They stay in the Globe website, and then we copy them into this program called the Globe Network in Mighty. And that's just a really interactive space. And we close, we don't allow commenting until the reviewers have had a chance to comment. And they'll put their comments straight in this very interactive place called Mighty or Globe Network. And then that way you and your students would be able to see the comments right away. So we do have academic integrity guidelines that research teams should be doing the work, not if your students, there shouldn't be the teachers or parents doing the work. However, the educators and scientists mentors are encouraged to, provide support as needed. Globe does have ethical use of generated AI, such as ChatGPT or other Copilot. Acceptable use of generative AI is brainstorming research questions and fine-tuning grammar and language, but not actually writing their posters. So I don't know if educators are running into this. I imagine you are. So there are some guidelines. And then researchers, student researchers, teacher researchers must also acknowledge the work that have been produced by others through references. And if you use generative AI, you have to cite it. So if you say, I came up with my research question through generative AI, then you have to state that in your references. So there actually is a whole guideline that the US Globe office has made on citing ChatGPT and generative AI. I found this to be very helpful. So you might, even if you're not doing a project as a former educator, I would have loved this guidance for my students. And I know that there's lots of webinars that we've done over the years, but if you need tutorials on how to get data from the Globe website, if you need ideas for using Globe data, this one here is in Alaska, the NASA SNOWX. That's out of Delta Junction, Alaska. And if you need help developing a good research question, there's a webinar on that, or making a poster. So even though this is asynchronous and online, Globe students have given really great feedback. They've really liked it. The students said it was an unforgettable experience. It sparked curiosity. It helped the student connect with other young scientists. And who knew that we can have a way to connect asynchronous and build community. That's exciting and inspiring. So again, I really encourage you. I know this is super short timeline. It's mid-January, but maybe your students or maybe you could pull something together. So we hope that you can. January 30th is the deadline to submit a project, and soon after, the reviewers will start reviewing. So thank you so much. I hope I didn't take too long here. Went over just about 5 minutes. But if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Christy. That was great. I think I kept up on all of your links. I'll take another look as we get ready for the next part. Any questions for Christy on that presentation? I know it looks a little daunting. I looked through it all myself a month ago, and it's like, oh, wow, that seems like a lot. But then the way you explain it's like, oh, well, yeah, okay, that's doable. So please don't get overwhelmed. That's what we're here for, is to help you out and get you on the right foot to start on.
Yeah, and one thing we took away, there's not really a rubric. It's not judging. We changed the words this year from judging to reviewing. So it's a conversation. I have this idea, and you can share it and get feedback, and students can share and get feedback. It's not your research question isn't as testable as it should be. It's not going to be looking at negatives. It's really drawing out the positives. So I think it'll be a good experience. And we do have templates because it can seem overwhelming. Well, thanks
Wonderful.
for putting all those links in, Tori.
You're welcome. All right. Emily, are you ready? I think you should be able to share.
Let me make sure that I can here. All right, are you guys seeing my screen?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So first question, just for everybody here. Has anyone used story maps before? Or even just like seen a story map before? Thumbs up, thumbs down. No. Couple thumbs up, couple thumbs down. Okay, perfect. We're gonna start at the beginning. So story maps are an interactive multimedia storytelling tool. The basic idea is it takes all these different ways of storytelling and it smushes them into one so that you can kind of choose how you want to lay out a story. It's run by Esri, which is who makes ArcGIS, which is probably like one of the bigger mapping companies in the world. And so they do mapping software. But story maps are designed to be easily digestible, easy to work with, ways to communicate information without having to do a bunch of complex mapping or a bunch of complex, like just all of the other things. So the whole idea behind them is that they're very user friendly with the idea that anybody can make them and then anybody can share them. And so, um, if this is something that you're interested in doing with your students, and you probably don't know until you look around a little bit, one of the first things that I would do is have them just look at some story maps to see what they are. Um, so to get there, you do need an account. All you have to do is go storymaps.arcgis.com, um, and it'll ask you to log in. It's a free account. As a quick aside, if you are already using GIS, using ArcGIS with the school or with the tribe, both have educational licenses. So you can get more accounts that have more power if you do think you want to do more GIS or more mapping with your students in the future. You can get that through the school district or through the tribe. Um, but if all you want to use it for is story maps, the easiest thing is to just go to storymaps.arcgis.com and just make an account. It's a free login. Um, and then I would take my students and I would just have them go poke around. There's a thing called gallery you can get to, and it's just gonna show you a smattering of a bunch of different examples of what they are. So this is what it looks like today. It looks different every day. And what's really cool is there's one up here that actually has some IARC affiliated folks on it. So I pulled that one up just to show you an example. This has Brookwoods, who works with IARC and is an expert on fish. Um, and so when I say multimedia tool, it means you can combine narrative text. So you have your story that you're telling, but you can also use video, images. You can put hyperlinks in. You can make maps. You can do slideshows. You can do timelines, infographics, all sorts of different stuff, and you can put it all together. One of the big perks, I think, with this and working with students is that it gives students the opportunity to really play to their strengths. So if you've got some students that are like, hey, I've been out interviewing elders and I want to put these audio recordings on here, and that's really like my piece of the project that I want to include, awesome, they can do that. If you've got another student that's like, I love writing, I want to write the story. Another student's like, I really like making graphs, I'm going to do the graphs. This way you can combine it all, and it's a lot more visually appealing than your standard research report. No offense to the standard research report, but it is a lot more appealing. Um, and so, and then just the other thing is, there's this guide for the science symposium coming up, and it's fantastic. And I would definitely just recommend using that. But that is not the only venue for story maps. So you can also have, students have taken story maps to the tribal council before or to school board to show an issue that's important, or they've done it just as a presentation, in class. So there's lots of uses for it. It's just another tool in your toolkit for how to tell stories with your students. So I always run the risk of driving too fast when I am driving something that scrolls. So forgive me if you get dizzy, tell me to slow down. I just want to show you an example of what one looks like. They all start with the title and give you some sort of opportunity to put an image or a video or a map up at the top. It also always includes the author, so whoever's name is on the account is automatically going to get populated in there. So just something to think about if you want each student to have their own account or if you want to have a class account. But as we scroll down, you can see there's some text that somebody's typed up. You've got some pictures of what's going on. And then my guess is this map is in here as a graphic itself. You can make maps. You can also input graphics if you already have an image. There's lots of opportunities for subheaders. You can put in figures, graphs, data. You can make quotes pop out so that you can see them better. Helps draw people's eyes into, like, if there's something that really matters or a personal connection that somebody wants to share. And then let me just scroll real quick for a second. Okay, so this is another tool. As you can see, the text moves along the side as it highlights features on the map. So that's another tool in the story map kit. You can see that again here. And I'm going to show you all of these, like, on how to put one together. I just want you to see some examples of what they look like. So I think this is mostly photos and text as you go down as well. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, sorry for the dizziness here, you have the opportunity to put in all your credits. So you make sure that everybody who's involved is getting credit for it, even if it's just one student's name at the top. So if you make your own account, what it's going to do is it's going to take you to, well, once you're done looking at the project gallery and getting some good ideas, it'll take you to just this landing page. Everybody has their own landing page. It looks like this. If you've played around and dinked around a lot, you're going to have a bunch of untitled stories, which is what I have. But also, it's where my stories that are not untitled stories are. So, this was a presentation that we gave to a funding agency. These are lesson plans that we've done with students before. This is something we shared out of the Globe Science Symposium. So, lots of different things you can do with a story map. If you're following along the story map quick start guide that Christy referenced, that Tori put in the chat, it's going to say go up here and it's going to say start from scratch. They changed the language. They are always updating, so it's a little bit different, which is funny because I just checked it today. I was like, I should just make sure it's still the same, and it's a little bit different. But still, you're going to go up, if you want to start a story map, you're going to go up to create, and you're just going to click story. For the sakes of this, ignore all the other stuff. If you really want to dig into it and you want to get creative and your students get really excited, you can go play around, but just go to create and story. It'll launch this story builder. And what I like about story maps is that it does a lot of the background work for you. You don't need to know any coding. You don't need to know any website design. You don't even really need to know anything about like what makes graphics look good because they're going to, for the most part, just do it for you. So what you end up with is this blank story map. And right away, it's going to start out with the title. So you're going to put your title. You can give a little something or other underneath it. It will always say draft until you hit publish. So nobody can see this while you are working on it until you click publish and you decide how to share it and with who. So anytime on here you see a place that says this is going to give you the option to add a cover image, you can change that. And then anytime you see this little, I guess that's kind of like a little teal plus symbol is where you can add things. So if I were to put my title in there, anything here, I can change where I want this to be. But anytime you see this little plus, if you add it, this gives you the option of what you want to put in there. So you have lots of options. The first being just text. So if I want to add text and I want to type something, Science Symposium Project, it's going to go here. And then there's options for how to change it. You can make it a heading, a numbered list. You can play around a little bit with the font and bolding and things like that. I can turn it into a quote and attribute it to somebody if I want to. So everything has, stuff you can do once you add it. So that's text. That's probably the most basic idea. The other thing is no matter what you've got, the plus adds something. This little 6 dots here helps you reorder it so you can move stuff around. So once you've got it on there, you can pull it up and pull it down or reorganize it wherever you want in your story map. I want to show you just some of the other things that you can add to a story map. A button is a hyperlink. So if you want somebody to look at your report or your story map and then go visit another website, it's going to pop up with a little button. And if you add in there, you can add a link and it can take you to another site. And then if I wanted that up top, I would just drag it. A separator is just, another cue for a different section. And then code, if you have somebody in your class that's really into coding and you want to put some code in there and you can share some scripts, you can do that. That is not me. I don't know that stuff, but I think it's cool. Okay. Now, when you get to the more data visualization stuff, you have options of maps, charts, infographics, or tables. This all also updated recently. It used to have a little bit differently how they introduced the map. It'd be like express map, tour map. They've simplified it a little bit, which is a little bit nice. So if I were to click map here, there's a couple different things you can do. If you are part of ArcGIS and you already have some maps that you've made, it's going to give you those maps underneath here. But in general, if you're just doing story maps, you're not necessarily going to have maps that you've made separately in ArcGIS. You're going to have these options here of creating an express map or looking for other maps. So like, for example, my organization is the University of Alaska. And so I can see anybody that shared a map within the University of Alaska. I can see their maps and use that. There's also Living Atlas of the World, which is Esri verified maps. And so the reason I suggest if you are looking for a map that's already made that shows something, looking here is because it's been validated. You can trust it as a source. Your students can trust it as a source because before it makes it into Living Atlas, it's been reviewed by Esri and they know that the data is solid. And so you can get all sorts of different maps in there that you can use. So you can see things like that. Roofing permits. There's a map for that. So you can always have your students search and then they can bring in a map that somebody else has made it into their project. If your students want to make their own map, an express map to show especially like where their sample sites are or where erosion's happening or where a wildfire scar is, then you can go up here to create express map. And it's going to launch you into this, which is just your basic map of the world. You have lots of options over here where you can change the base map. So you can change it to a satellite image if that works better for you. And then let's say you want to zoom into where you are. So if we go over to Toke, it's going to zoom in here. And then it's going to give me the option to add that to a map. But let's say I don't want to. Let's say I want to go down here and find my specific sites. You can just zoom in here. And then you've got some options here. You can up here add a point. You can add a numbered point. You can draw. You can make shapes. So if I would say right here is the spot that, we tested something, we went out, we took data. And over here, I want to trace this little open area here, because maybe this is something important here. So you can add features like this and kind of draw. You can add text, so this is, site A might be here. You can change how it says things. So you have a lot of options to simply make a map with the background imagery that's already provided, and then you can add different stops along it. You can add a legend, an overview map, and then it's going to give you your features here. So anything else you've included on there. And then once you've got it, you can save it and it's going to pop up in here. Now, if you were to add a bunch of points, let me quick show you what that looks like. So this is one we did from Science Symposium 2023. It's been 3 years already. So this is a quick express map that just showed where the students came from. And it was really simple, but it gives you the opportunity to have some information and a picture along the side. And then the story map itself will zoom you through all the different locations. So it'll zoom in to wherever you have set it to zoom into. And so you can add multiple pictures. These were all our teams from Fairbanks. But as you scroll down, you'll see it's gonna, look at that. There's Tori. It's gonna fly us around and highlight the other places. So I think once we get down here, down to Washington, it'll fly us down here. So that's a way to do an interactive map that you can have the students, they used to call it a map tour because it kind of drives you get to set where people go and how, right? When they're looking at it. So it's not just showing them a static map and then they have to decide how to interpret that. Instead, when somebody looks at it, you're guiding them through it and you're leading them through it. So that's something that your students can include. And especially if you've got multiple sites you're working with, that can be really cool. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go back to, oops, our draft here. Okay, so let's say we added a map. A couple other things I want to show you that you can add. Charts. You can add different graphs. This is relatively new, I think. Last time I made one, they didn't have one, but you can copy paste your data. So if you've got an Excel spreadsheet, you can copy paste. I looked, and I don't know, Tori or Hannah, if you guys have used these more, if there's a way to upload a spreadsheet. I haven't seen that yet, or upload a graph. If you have a graph that's already made, you can upload it as an image, though. That's always an option. And let's see. Infographic, which is going to just like highlight something. Again, it lets you kind of just add something simple in there and it'll give you an infographic. A table, same kind of thing as the graph. It's going to drop it in there for you and you can fill it in. If you've already got it made in Excel or you've already got it made in Google Sheets, you can always just bring it in as an image as well. All right, media. image is pretty standard. You can pull it from the web, you can pull it from your desktop, wherever you've got them. You can also do an image gallery, which is a bunch of them. So for example, on this guy, sorry, I don't want to make people dizzy. I think this one we had an image gallery. Yeah. So you can have a bunch of photos at once. So again, it's just another way to split it up so when people are reading it or they're going through it, it switches up how it looks to keep people engaged. So that's another way to do it. Also, if you just have a bunch of cool photos of students doing stuff and you can't pick, well, there's your easy out for how to deal with that. A 360 image, you have to upload it yourself. I've never taken one, but that's a cool new feature. Okay, image gallery, video. Again, your students are going to know how to make videos and they're going to be able to do it. So that one's uploads pretty easily. Same with audio. This embed thing, you can embed other websites. I do think if you don't have, like I tried to log in under my personal Gmail, which is not affiliated with the university, and I don't have this highlighted under my personal email. So I don't think you have the opportunity to embed other apps unless you are part of an organization, but I could be wrong. But don't be surprised if this one isn't highlighted. An ArcGIS app, could be useful if there's the Wildfire one. I wonder if because that is an ArcGIS map. So you can go through here. These are apps that are made on ArcGIS by other people. And so you could bring one of these in. I don't know if Hillary knows if you can find the Wildfire dashboard. That's a potential as well. Perhaps you could bring that in if that's relevant to your project. So anyway, okay, let's go back here. Oh, I keep doing that.
I think Hillary, if you wanted to talk, you need to unmute.
Oh, I just said I'm not certain actually if you can. I would imagine that you should be able to because they're pretty linked in with Esri. I could reach out to a couple of people and find out.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Okay, a couple other fun features that they have is this swipe tool. This one's, I think, a really powerful storytelling tool. The trick is you have to have location data on it, and it has to be really accurate, else it won't work. But what this is it gives you the opportunity to compare the same place at different times. So let me zoom up here and find one to show you. Okay, so this is the same place, but you get to have this little swipe tool that goes back and forth. The easiest way to do one of these is to take maps that are already made that are available just from going and clicking those. You can do this with images like the classic, the glacier before and after, and you can do it with a wildfire before or after. But in that case, your photos have to be geo-referenced, meaning they have to have location data. For the most part, our phones are automatically doing that unless you've turned it off. But if you've got like a historical photo, that's not going to come in with that. And so you can do it, but it's some legwork to get that to actually match up. But there's lots of imagery out there that you can use that's already available and already knows where it is. So you don't have to go find it in space. But that's a cool tool to use as well. Other tools available to you are a timeline. So you can show the timeline of your project or your progress. The sidecar is that immersive panel where the panel moves while the map kind of highlights the features. So that's what these folks did up here. So this is a sidecar. So the text moves alongside as the image changes. Sorry, let me get that going. That's what a sidecar is. That's a pretty powerful storytelling tool as well. And then, they do have map tour as a separate one here. Okay, so you can also do a map tour where you start and build it up that way. Express map is also pretty easy to do it. So that is like a really quickly going through all of the things. That said, the reason that I go through it quickly is because I want you to know what stuff are or what stuff is, and that it's a really cool tool and there's a lot you can do with it. But also, more than anything I have worked with, Esri has put a lot of effort into making really user-friendly guides for how to do things and making this user-friendly. So there's the guide that Christy shared, which I have pulled up here. This is a really nice thing because not only does it show you how to build the story map, but it's also going to build in how to develop a story map that tells your research project. So, as you scroll down here, it's not just, okay, how do we want to build a story map, but okay, what sections do we need? What kind of things might we put in there? So maybe the introduction section, if you know you're going to be having to explain why the research is important, maybe that's an opportunity for your 3 students who really want to do a video to share a video. In your data analysis and discussion or in your method plans, maybe that's where somebody shares some audio or some pictures of you guys out there collecting the data. So it's also, this guide is going to give you not just how to do the story map, but also how to organize it really well for telling your research project or a proposal. So definitely use this as a source. There's a couple other things. Good. I'm glad that I just looked at this. Couple other things that you can do up here is this button here says design. This is going to give you an option to just kind of change from like light to dark, or to have things on the side so your students can play around with this. Navigation is a different way to do this. Let me show you one that has navigation at the top. I don't think this one does. Okay, let me just go. Navigation is I don't know if you can hear my squealing baby in the back. So navigation gives you headers at the top for each of your sections so that you can jump to them, or you can scroll to them. So you can have that kind of a setup as well. Just different options to work with. And then the other thing you can do with design is you can change this theme. So you can't just go in and be like, my favorite font is Calibri and that's the one I want to work with. But they do have different themes where they've already put a color palette in and then they've put different fonts to go with it. So your students can choose which one they feel like would work best for their particular project. There are other themes in a gallery. You can make your own. Again, that's a little bit like, if we're on JV, that's varsity. So if your students get really into it and they want to do that in the future, awesome. But I would stick with making your story map first before you get too in the weeds with that. And then, let's see. There's you can swap things around here. Preview allows you to look at it how it would look to somebody else. So if somebody else is looking at this is what they're going to see. They're not going to see all my, messy work, but that's what they're going to see. So the preview button is your friend for sure. And on the preview button, sorry, I should have showed you that. This also lets you see how it looks on a mobile device, a tablet, a desktop, and then full screen. So it gives you some options too. And then one thing that's newer, I think, is that it also allows you to check accessibility. So once you have it where you want it and you're like, sweet, this looks good, let's do it. It's always auto saving. It's always in draft mode until you click publish. And you can share it. Private is just with yourself. So if you want to share it with anybody and you want it to be on private, you're going to have to log in to show them. Organization, if you are affiliated through your school district with ArcGIS, that would be your organization, or everyone means it's public, anyone can view it. I wish there was a way to do it like, with Google, where they've got like only people who have the link, but that's not really an option here. So again, being mindful of what you put on there, if it's going to be everyone can view it, which I think it would have to be in order to share it with the Globe Science Symposium. Just be mindful of like, what you've put up there if there's anything that you've got concerns with, because anybody can theoretically look at it. Is somebody going to go searching the internet for it? Probably not, but like it could be viewed by anybody, outside of the Student Research Symposium or the Virtual Science Symposium. And then there is a way to Where was it? I was going to do insights. Oh, now I can't find. There was a thing earlier that was an accessibility checker, which I really like. Yeah, here we go. Accessibility checker. So this is going to tell you if there's issues that are, um, maybe you want to put some captions in here. You need to add, attribute this to somebody. Accessibility might be if you're using like a color scheme that's not viewable by everyone or something like that. So, or your fonts are too small or something like that. Um, so that's also an option. So that is kind of the like quick crash course. I know I talk really fast and I showed you a bunch of stuff, but the idea behind it being show you what's out there, and then there's all these great tools to go through it on your own. So I've sent Tori's got some links. Um, yeah, awesome. Thank you, Tori. Tori's putting some links in the chat itself. Um, there's the Globe Quick Start Guide. There's also this think it's this one that's the getting started with, um, which is really nice. It's really user-friendly tutorials. And the other thing I like about them is they made the tutorials in story map form. So you can see, like this is a story map about how to make story maps. Okay, cool. That gives me some ideas. And I know that I can bold things. I know that I can, put in images because I'm seeing them do it here. So lots of great stuff to work with. They're also just, I think, pretty fun. So hopefully, if your students decide to do this, or you want to try to do this with your students, they have a lot of fun. It gives them a lot of freedom to play around and really play to their strengths. Um, so yeah. And if you decide to do it and you have any questions at any time, you're always welcome to reach out to me. Or I know Christy's made a bunch of story maps. So I'm sure other folks here have too. So um, yeah, I think that that's all I've got. And Tori has been wonderful in adding great links into the chat that if you want to explore more, you can do that.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was really informative. I learned a lot. Does anybody have questions for Emily? I did have one, and I think you kind of answered it there at the end. Like, what is the difference between the free account and an organization account? And you mentioned one that like a few options might be grayed out.
Yeah, and we ran into this at a workshop a few years ago where they used to have just the ArcGIS was one kind of story map and the public account was another kind of story map. And luckily they've merged them together now, so it's a little bit more straightforward. The main difference in the ArcGIS, if you have an organizational account versus if you don't, so a paid for account versus a free account, is your map making capabilities. So what I can do through the organization is I have an ArcGIS account, which means I can make really detailed maps and I can run analytics. That's the big difference is I can analyze my maps that I've made, and then I can bring in those maps to the story maps themselves. If you've got the free public account, you can't really do anything analytical on your map. You can't, compare this area to this area and the size and do all of those kind of numbers questions. So you can really only use the maps to tell stories. You can't necessarily use the maps to analyze data. I feel like I need to find a better way to explain that because I'm not sure that that totally makes sense.
No, I think it does. So if they
Yeah.
have an analysis they want to do, that's where they could reach out to you or to Hannah, and then they could put that in as an image.
Yeah. So for
Okay.
example, if I wanted to run like if I wanted to make a map in ArcGIS and I wanted to know something about the proximity to all these different water bodies from the school, for example. That's a thing that in an ArcGIS map, I can just enter, these locations and then I can run a proximity analysis and it's going to give me those distances. And I don't have to go measure anything. It's just going to run it for me. But yeah, and if you're using story maps, you can't do that part. But if somebody's made that map, you can bring in that map, as if somebody's published that online. So yeah, if you do have a map if you do have some like data analysis you want to do with a map or with satellite imagery, definitely that's where I can help out. Hannah, Christy, some of the map whizzes can help out. So it's more power beyond, what they give you there.
And who would they contact to find out if they have an organizational license for it? Their tech person?
Yeah, it's going to be through the school districts. I would email the school district's tech person.
Okay.
And for the sakes of a story map, it doesn't necessarily make that much difference. But if you do have high school students that get really interested in mapping, like a few years ago, we had a team from Juneau that had some students that were really interested in mapping, and they were more interested in doing that kind of data analysis. And so in that case, it does benefit everybody to actually have the organizational account on there. And then also then if your students are leaving and they leave in high school and they're graduating, they've got some of those map making skills behind them. That is a very employable skill. But to just do the story maps, you don't really need to go through that whole rigmarole.
And I wanted to point out too that even though that the virtual science symposium ends early this year, if you wanted to build in your lesson, you know, in your unit plans for the spring, that students make a story map, that can still be published to Globe anytime.
Yeah.
So it can still be accepted in, you know, May or late April. And then that's what's many students in the past have actually used that link either to the story map or to the, say, the Globe link that could have the embedded story map within it. They've used that on job applications. They've used it to try to apply for college and scholarships. So having, you know, maybe you look at their story map and you're like, they're not ready yet. That's okay. They can still edit it. And then if you wanted to publish, you know, on the Globe website, that's a NASA program, and that can really help students on their college scholarship.
And because it's in the Globe database, they can say they're scientifically published, correct?
Yes, they can say it's published. And it is reviewed. Like we have, after I'm done, there's still a team. The Globe website is staying. The Globe data collection is staying. There's a team that those things stay, but it, you know, they are reviewed. So there may be a time that they, you know, after the school year where they say no longer until we get more funding, accepting new projects. And that's just because NASA has to vet everything. That is, it's a NASA website. They host it. So they have to curate the content and make sure that it's okay. Whereas story maps, that's up to you as a teacher. Like anyone can go get a login and just make a story map, and then they would have the link. But to publish on the Globe website, that does require that additional review.
Wonderful. We have just a few more minutes. Christy, I have the list of changes and website or